So down here, San Antonio shoreline, we finally got some water came back. We had a lot of winds the past week. They were early in the week that we had some all kinds of weather that was all over the place. It was pushing a lot of water in here for us. So as we got toward the end of the week, we started getting that water back. So it really was advantageous for us in some different areas. So I decided to run up here to Panther Point and the Panther Lake area, Swan Lake, Cedar area, just to see if there's these fish, because we're starting to get into that time of the year, spring wise, where you're just going to start seeing these fish show up over shell. We're starting to see it. It's not massive amount of fish that are hanging out over shell, but we're starting to see pieces of fish that are there. They're starting to, we're picking up, a few dozen fish here and there over shell bars and shell reefs. And as our water temps begin to climb, looking at the weather for the upcoming 10 days, this upcoming week, as we get early, we get into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're looking at 80 plus degree days. And all that's going to do is warm that water temp up even more so and help push these fish even more to those types of areas where they want to stay and be comfortable. Hard packed sand, shell bars, shell reefs. Those will all come into play even more so as we begin to progress closer to the summertime. We're right here at the end of April. May's coming, so those are areas that you're going to really be points of emphasis that you really want to focus on. So we decided to take a look up here to see if these fish were hanging on this outer edge, because there's been several times in the past where we've come up here, May, June, even July, and there's lots of trout that are hanging out here on the outer edge of that. So we're just going to see if there's fish are hanging there just yet. So we did locate a few, not great numbers, enough to keep us there for 2 or 3 hours just to see what kind of progress that we would get there and what type of production. And of course, we fished the outer edge out here. We came on the inside, which you have a little bit more different kind of bottom and structure that's on the inside, which kind of really sets up more so than what we are right now. There's still a little bit of soft mud that we're still dealing with. And of course, on the inside here, if you fish this, you know that there's shell in there, and you've got shell pads in there, and you've got areas, you've got little drop-offs and edges that all come into play. And then, of course, in the back lake areas back in here, you've got little mouths that dump out. And then you got all a swan that's back in here. But, of course, we really were kind of staying away from these types of areas when we had our really super low negative tides and lower end tides that were just been on the positive side, but just still not enough water in there for us to really make that run up here. So toward the end of this past week, that's when we had our opportunities, when we saw that water coming back. So we decided to run up here. Cedar Lake is another one of those. It's got a great little estuary. It's set up really nice for us. We can fish these edges. You had enough water in there that you could fish out toward the middle and not be just too deep for you. And then, of course, down the shoreline there, you've got the shore, you've got the mangrove edges, and then, of course, the outer edge out here. You've got nice grass beds, submerged little satellite beds that were all out in this area here. So those are areas that we're really focused on when we came up here to fish. That's where we locate a lot of our fish, was tad bit deeper water, in and around grass. And the main reason why is a lot of these fish are trout-wise anyway. They've got eggs, they're developed, and they're getting ready to push up, and they want to start laying these eggs. So water temps are right. It's 70 plus, been that way for, a week or so, 2 weeks or so. So these fish are they're looking for the opportunity to get to lay those eggs. So there's where your opportunities are going to come from. So no matter if you're fishing up in here in the San Antonio Bay Area on this shoreline, or if you're fishing further south or in between, or even further north over in the Port O'Connor area, Seadrift area, whatever, if you've got those beds, those grass bed areas, those are your targets. Those are the areas that you really want to focus in on, and really concentrate your efforts in and around those places like that. So again, 5 baits company wise that I've been throwing. It's been down south, which has been down south with me from the beginning. Knock and Tail has been another one there. Mirror lures, Coastal Brew, and Pav lures. Now that we've been into this transition days, getting into the new moon phase, that bite's really kind of starting to pick up, just been a little bit better for us. So we're really starting to throw some bigger baits. So that'll be kind of this upcoming week, as it was toward the end of this past week. We were throwing some 5 and 6 inch baits and having some pretty decent success with that bigger bait like that. So that would be my focus or my advice to anybody that's getting to fish this upcoming week, because we're going to be right in the middle of the new moon. It's going to be, should be spectacular for the most part as far as your bite frames. Really focus in on that minor setting and minor rising if at all possible. Extend your bite during the day, during the majors. See when those are going to set up for you. See what the tides are doing. I don't anticipate this water being pushed out of here right now. We should maintain our levels of the amount of water that we have, so it's really going to open up a lot of fishing area for you, no matter where you're going to be. But really pay attention to that. So, we've been a lot of clean water this past week. Even though we had some higher wind days, it really kind of churned some stuff up. If you were not protected, then yeah, you had some dirtier water to fish. But we really fished tight to shorelines, on protected shorelines, and that water's nice and green. Really nice clarity to it. So we were throwing a little bit more translucent baits to that, and maybe just a little off-color solid baits here and there. The down south was the white ice did pretty good for us. A little bit pearl was pretty good. Magic grass was another one of those that's done good for us. Watermelon red, it still continues to be pretty good for us for the most part. Sprinkled in some topwater baits as well. And then, of course, in the mirror lure, kind of along, followed that same color-wise as far as the flavors go that we did with the down south Pav lures. You've got a lot of different flavors that are in those, but we're throwing the 5 and 6 inch bait with those. And then, of course, the coastal brew baits did pretty well with those as well, and the same flavors as well across their board as well. So if you've got those different types of baits, really focus in on throwing those if you really want to have an opportunity. As we get out of April, we start sliding into May. Temperatures begin to climb. Your bigger girls that you may have an opportunity to may have laid eggs, so you may not find that big heavy one, but you'll find a long girl that's laying up somewhere. So just keep that in mind as you progress this week. It's kind of important that if you're going to be on the water, that you get those opportunities and give yourself the best chance of catching you a fish of a lifetime. Long reef bend, again, once we've got the water came back toward the end of the week. Early part of the week, it was not as good, wasn't as productive, but once we got water back and started really pushing into these areas, we kind of started looking at our back lake areas. I like the back lake there that's off of Jaybird Point. I like the little back lake mouths that dump out there that's in Long Reef Bend area on the other side of Paul's Mott. If you go south of Mott there, it's another really good area. Sherman's, it's one of my favorite back lakes to fish. We get in here. When I saw that tide report, I think it was, I guess it was Thursday or Friday when we were like 0.8, 0.9. I was like, we're going straight to Sherman's. We're going to fish all that area back in there. So we really spent a lot of time on this inside, or should I say outside shoreline here next to the bayside. And then, of course, we work the back shoreline that's all back in here. Spend a little bit of time back there and kind of push back to these back lakes that are back this way here. A lot of scattered redfish back in here. Found a few quality trout, nothing like big numbers of trout, probably not like you would on the outer edges where the grass and stuff are on this outside shoreline. But we just wanted to see if these fish are really starting to push back in. Of course, again, when you have those higher tides like that, then that fish, they like to go back further where they haven't been able to get to for a little bit. So that was kind of the case here. So we found redfish pushed up against the shoreline. One thing that we have noticed here in the last week and a half is that you're starting to see a lot of tailing redfish, which kind of surprised me just a little bit. I know the opportunities and possibilities are there, but one of the key indicators for you when you start to get that, you start looking for seagulls. Start hovering really close to the shores, really close to the water. They're a dead giveaway for when you find little pods of those fish like that. And once you can kind of work yourself into it, you give yourself opportunities to sight cast some redfish, and that's a lot of fun if you've ever done that before. It's a great deal of excitement and opportunity for you. But again, we work these areas here. You can work out in the middle, work the potholes primarily, work shoreline. And these fish were in and around all those types of areas, and that's the structure that you're going to have moving forward. You're going to have, again, a lot more hard-packed sand. Grass is always the common denominator no matter what time of year that you fish. If you're fishing in the wintertime, springtime, fall, summer, winter, it doesn't matter. The grass is always the common thing that you want to be able to have in your fishing location. Fish like that type of structure. They like to be around that. And typically you have potholes, you have little drop edges that you can fish in and around. And those fish will hold up in and around that kind of, especially if you got the bait working in there. There's a tremendous amount of bait that's pushing back in a lot of these back lakes. They're on the shorelines, they're on the outer edges. Bait is not an issue whatsoever. So just give yourself the best opportunity that you can locate these fish. Again, the same flavors that I mentioned in the last video, in those colors of down south, mirror lures. We kind of stayed toward the smaller profile this past week. We were still kind of in those transition days early on, but then as we got later into the week, midweek, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we started throwing a little bit bigger baits because we were into that 10-day period to where you got the 5 days that lead up to the 0% illumination for the moon. And of course we'll be on the back side of those 5 days this upcoming week, but there still should have plenty of opportunity to find and locate you some fish. The one thing that has been a consistent thing, and this is 100% all toward conservation, man. If you moaned and griped about the conservation as far as the restricted slot being the 15 to 20 and 3 fish as far as trout go, and then the restricted slot being 20 to 30, it is really paying off. It's starting to show up big time right now. If you haven't had the opportunity to get much time on the water, we're consistently catching fish 26, and every so often we'll sprinkle in, which is a special fish. When he starts getting 27 above, those are really great fish. And then we're catching a lot of fish that are in that upper slot, the 16s to 19s, 19 and a half. So there's quality fish that's being caught every day. So that's a 100% direct result of doing conservation, and that's kudos to Texas Parks and Wildlife for pulling the trigger on. As we move forward, this springtime is going to continue to be spectacular, be very productive. So get yourself out there and give yourself opportunities to find and catch you some fish. Over here in St. Charles Bay, Egg Point, man, it's Egg Point. If you fished it, but it's got terrific grass that's on it. It's got spectacular potholes that are on it. It seems to be a little bit more so this year than in a couple of years in the past. It maybe I'm just haven't noticed it as much in the past years, but this year it seems to be really good. And with the amount of bait that's working in there, it's been spectacular. Both sides, depending on what wind, because early in the week we had some funky wind that you could fish either side of it. And when you have a wind that sets up for you perfectly, and if you fished Egg Point, it's really more of an east-west than a north-south setup. There's certain, on the southern side of Egg, if you get the right wind, you can fish down that shoreline all the way to the point with a south breeze, and it works well. Or with the north breeze, you can fish down it that way. But the back side or the northern side of it, you can fish all the way back into that back lake, and you fish all the way up that shoreline. And the grass has been spectacular. It's in there. Again, the bait that's been stacked on top of that, and there's been fish that's been holding on it. And then, of course, that area, and then another one of the Egg's very good. I've always enjoyed fishing Egg Point in that area around that surrounds it. And then Boy Scout Camp. Boy Scout Camp is another area that whole big, long shoreline. It sets up really good for a south breeze and a north breeze. And as we got later into the week, we got more southeast breezes. And there was a couple of days we had a little bit more east. But you can get down there in Little Devil and Big Devil Bayou. You can get a little protection from that. And then, of course, the other thing, straight across from there, you got Big and Little Sharp. Big and Little Sharp have been holding some fish as well. You've got some grass beds that are on top of that, and you've got a little bit of scattered shell here and there. You've got a deeper edge to it, and you've got a shallower edge to it. Water temps are perfect. Fish are pushing up on that and in that area. And we've located fish in and around that, and of course, back down here in Cowchip in this area here, and this whole shoreline on Ernest Point that comes back around. all sets up pretty well for you. Now, if you got a northwest or west wind, this shoreline right here is very good, Aransas Point. Or if you get a south-southeast breeze, of course, you can fish it back down to it. But either way, you've got a nice hard-packed bottom. You've got grass that's in there. The structure is perfect. You've got a little scattered shell here and there. Not a lot, but just enough that's going to keep fish held in those particular areas. The one flavor that really stood out the day that we fished up in here, and in the days previous, in the past week, that one of the flavors that was really good in the mirror lure, Little John and the Little John XL, is called the Truth. Double D came out with that a couple of years back in that same flavor. Now they've transitioned over into the plastics, and it is spectacular. It's been very productive. The plum flavor has been very good for us as well. That's been just a couple of those things. It's been good. But that said, your Magic Grass has been good. Twisted Tea has been good. Big Papa, Bone Diamond, White Ice. White Ice a little bit more than the Bone Diamond has, but they've all in that white flavor has been pretty good. The Pearl, another one that's been very good for us. The Pav lures in a few different flavors. Been a green and red combination. Again, I'm not super familiar with all their color names just yet, but in just their profile size, they're very similar to what the coastal brew baits are. Great rat tail. And again, if you're really looking for a trophy trout here as we finish in April up and we're getting into May, those baits are ones that you're really going to want to have in your box and throw it. The down south, same thing. Little John's, Little John XL, same thing. Double D's been another bait that's been pretty good here and there. The topwater action has picked up somewhat. Again, we're getting into those consistently upper 70s, low 80s in this upcoming week. We got lots of 80-degree temperatures in our forecast, so I anticipate that water level or water temps to be in that same degree temperature. So you should have plenty of opportunities, again, around with the new moon flavor that's going to be in here for us. More water, it's going to open up more opportunities for you. So this upcoming week, if you're able to be out and get to fish, you should have some good opportunities on the days that you get to fish. Again, make sure that you pay attention to those majors and minors. Nothing weather-wise that looks too concerning. Maybe toward the end of the week, we might have some possibilities of a little bit of rain. Don't know yet. That's always subject to change 24, 48 hours out, so I wouldn't worry about it too much until it gets closer to that time. But, again, if you get the opportunity this week, enjoy yourself out on the water. Make sure that you're safe. Pay attention to your tide report. You should have some great and spectacular days coming.